You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means, yup, we're back. We're back in action here on the old network, kicking things off, as we always do, with the bi-weekly options extravaganza known as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo from the aforementioned network, as well as, of course, from theoptionsinsider.com. You certainly want to head over to the site these days, especially during earnings season. That's where we give you all the latest earnings move results, and earnings season reports over there. Going to get into some of those a little bit later today. As you may have noticed, an earnings or two has been announced over the past few weeks out there. A lot of interesting stuff to sink our teeth into. We let you do it all over there completely for free. I ask you, I defy you. Who else offers you that? Literally nobody, because it really didn't exist before. I mean, there were some studies out there, like random Goldman ones, but if you were a client for a huge house, maybe they would give you some proprietary data every now and then. And that was kind of about it. Just a strange area that we thought, this should really be far more commonplace and far more freely available. And so with the help of the folks over there at ORATS, we have done just that. And now you guys can sink your teeth into it whenever you want. If you have a ticker that you want, we probably got it up there for you, theoptionsinsider.com. And of course, however you listen live after the fact, keep hitting us up, those questions, those comments, those insights. Play along in our questions of the week. We got a hot one over there right now at Options over there on Twitter. Quite simply, it's one of the old standbys. You guys love it. You've been asking us to bring it back. It seemed like a good time to do so. It's the old standby. What is the largest open options position in Tesla right now? Once again, no cheating. Don't go looking it up. Use your gut and see what your gut tells you. And the answer may surprise you in terms of what your gut tells you and what the actual answer is. Always fun and surprising. And you know what's also fun and surprising is the show. Let's see who's joining us on today's program to make it ever so fun and ever so surprising. First, let's go out to the quiet and sleepy. Actually, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. What am I doing? It's Monday. I got to kick things off the way we always do. Yes, it is time to name that 80s wrestler via his entrance music. I'll give you a hint for today's one. We're going a deeper cut. This guy was a primary antagonist for a short period there for one of the biggest face ever. He was Hogan's antagonist. So that was a big spot. Kind of short-lived, and his music kind of nondescript. So if you can get this from his music, I will be stunned. And then I will hold forth with the probably much needed after that hints. So here we go. Can you name that 80s wrestler? right. It doesn't really change. That's about it. That's about all the theme you get. It just makes me laugh. All right, let's go on out now, because I know if this could have been Hogan's music, and I know in a million years he would never get it. Let's welcome on the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. A, welcome back to the program, and B, just go ahead and name a wrestler, preferably a bad guy wrestler, sir.
The only guy I can I don't even know he exists. I just the name The Undertaker is hitting me for some reason.
Oh, that would have been good last week. You would have been winner chicken dinner last week. He was our wrestler last week for Halloween spooky season. But no, not The Undertaker this time. Good guess, though. At least that's a wrestler. You're in the right ballpark.
So there actually is one called The Undertaker.
Oh, yes. Perhaps one of the most, if not the most famous of all time. So he's up there. He's up there. He's a big one. Just retired last year. Big deal. Kind of like the whole Jordan thing. They did a last ride of The Undertaker. All kinds of craziness.
It is not The Undertaker. I think I know who it is.
You know that music?
I think I know who it is.
Wow.
I've got an idea. All right, not The Undertaker. So you said the hint you gave, brief antagonist. All right, I think is key here.
Yes.
Because I want to go out on a limb and say this revolves around the no holds barred music, and that this was Small. What is his name? Leonard Small, something like that.
Maybe.
And
perhaps.
Otherwise known as Zeus.
Holy crap!
And
yes.
And I think it was Zeus.
Yes.
Is who this was.
Yes, I'm stunned. How did you get that?
Because you said brief antagonist, and I was like, the only brief antagonist who never really hung around the WWF very long was Zeus. And it was because of his no holds barred movie.
Yes.
So it's got to be Zeus.
Yes. You know, I was thinking about doing this guy anyway, and randomly I happened to be going to Greektown yesterday, and my normal Euro place was closed, so I had to go down the street to a place I've never been to before, and I looked up, and lo and behold, the name was Zeus. And I was like, this is a sign from the Greek gods themselves that we need to do Zeus today. But his music was so nondescript, I thought for sure no one would get it. Well done, Mr. Meatball. You might have to get bonus points for that one. I don't know. We'll have to do a special.
I'll bet you Mike knew too. I will go out on a limb and say Mike thought it might be Zeus.
All right, let's go out to Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, A, welcome back to the program. And B, did you two guess that very brief theme off very scant information was none other than Zeus?
I did not. I have to admit. I was going to go with, at first I was thinking Paul, Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, but then you said brief. So that kind of led me away from that. My next guess, Hogan did have a little bit of a feud going with the Magnificent Morocco or Don Morocco for a while. I was going to guess that. If I'd have thought longer, I think Zeus may have come to me, but I got to give my credit to where credit's due to the Greasy Meatball today. You are the champ, my man. That was impressive.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow,
I'm proud of myself.
We may have to take that crown off Uncle Mike and pack it off to the Undertaker's neighbor. By the way, Rock Lobster, Undertaker is your cohort's neighbor now down there in Austin. So, of course, you know the Undertaker. As we keep on rolling. Wow, that was I did not think anyone. Did you get that, listeners? I'm guessing probably no. As we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
I'm still stunned that anyone got that. All right. Let's go see what... I was surprised how crappy his music was. I remember him being a pretty big presence and a good antagonist. I thought he did the whole No Holds Barred movie after appearing in WWE. I guess they made that movie first and then brought him into the WWF afterwards due to the popularity of the movie, and hence he faced off with Hogan. He actually faced off with Hogan in SummerSlam against the greatest tag team of all time. Demolition was on Hogan's team. So a fun match. I'll have to go back and watch that one out there. But I digress. Let's get into what's been lighting up the markets out there today. Coming into the start of the show, we saw mostly green, if a scant amount of green on the old screen today. S&P up about 0.5%, so barely budging to the upside. Dow up slightly more, up about 0.1%. And the NASDAQ leading the charge today, up about 0.25%. We have seen vol in general. If you listened to vol views yesterday, we know we had a little bit of evolution in volatility over the course of the show there. We had a bit of a move to the upside out there, and we're still seeing some upside on the screen right now. VIX at about a 17.5 when we kicked off the show. It's up about exactly 2 points from where it was this time last week. And we have VVIX at about a 112, up 9 points from where it was this time last week. VXX, the product you guys usually like to fade, back up to about a 21, up about 3/4 of a point right now. UVXY back up into the 16 range, up about 1.25 from this time last week. And VOLQ up a jaunty 1.5 points to 18.25. So Vol a little bit firmer since the last time we were all chatting about it here on the show. All right, let's go around the horn. Since he won, and since now I can see him, looks like he's wandering through the DMV there in Texas. Let's go back out to the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian, A, the Undertaker's neighbor, B, the biggest fan of Zeus apparently on the planet. Mr. Meatball, how the heck did you pull that out of your butt? B, any enduring memories of Zeus? And C, what the heck's lighting up your tape today, sir?
Well, I think that the one everyone remembers is when Zeus was in Survivor Series with the $1 Million Man.
Yes,
and
against Demolition and Hogan.
The Powers of Pain, which was quite the combo. And then, yeah, you had, I believe they had the Hart Foundation, Hulk Hogan, and maybe Randy Savage as the other team. The might have been the Ultimate Warrior, but Zeus got disqualified for choking out Hulk Hogan, being an unstoppable force. So yeah, they actually launched No Holds Barred and Zeus's WWF career concurrently to pump the movie. And I would say that everyone's favorite memory from No Holds Barred is when Hulk Hogan has his hands and he goes, "What's that smell?" And the guy goes, "Dookie." That was I think my favorite.
I am ashamed to say I've never seen No Holds Barred. Never saw that movie.
Oh, you are missing out. You and the son need to sit down and enjoy and take that one in.
Is that a quality 80s classic?
It's phenomenally bad. I mean, it really is. It is so wonderfully terrible that you'll really enjoy it.
What's worse, that or the Masters of the Universe movie from the 80s?
Ooh. I'm gonna say, that's a good one. Which I'm gonna say, Masters of the Universe is definitely a better watch than No Holds Barred, but they're both really good.
By good, you mean terrible.
Horribly bad.
Yes.
Horribly good. How about that? Like terribly bad. Terribly good.
We could do this for hours, sir, but what is lighting up your tape out there in the markets today?
Yeah, well, we came out thundering and have since just kind of petered out. I'm interested that Vol is up for the third day in a row. And that, the market seems to be starting to get a little tentatively nervous for some sort of cyclical sell-off. We are heading into expiration week next week. So are we going to see some selling? And, Vol is acting like, hey, that's a possibility. Certainly acting nervous today.
Nervous as perhaps Hogan was going into a match against the aforementioned Zeus. Let's go around the horn now. I usually call him the reigning defending. I don't know. I think with that pull, Sebastian may be coming for the crown, Mr. Uncle Mike. So, A, what are your enduring memories of the short-lived Zeus? It's funny. I remember him pretty profoundly as a kid, but yeah, he only had a very short run there in the WWF. And then, of course, aside from that, secondarily, what the heck's light up your tape today, sir?
Well, yeah, it was funny when you were going to ask for a memory. I was going to give the exact same one that Sebastian gave on the "What's That I Smell" one with from the movie, and that's really about all I remember of it. Zeus had a lot of potential, but the problem was it wasn't good, and so that's the way it goes in Hollywood, I guess. So, but. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Sebastian coming for my crown, he ain't coming for it because he's already got it. And that's one that if you can pull out Zeus, then you deserve to be the champ. But anyway, with what we have going on today in the marketplace, it seems like 4,700's a mark in the S&P that it does not want to give up to the bulls, if you will. And we have a pretty intense, not intense, but we have a decent sized sell off in the 10-year note right now. And then, the other thing that I'm watching at this stage, or what I'm noticing at this point, is there's that thing again that's coming back. It just won't die. It's that, what do you call it? Bitcoin. Bitcoin's definitely rallying a bunch on the day-to-day. So we have that happening. Silver is up roughly a percentage point. So it's not a major rally there. Across the market, it's kind of a split ticket amongst the sectors, with technology and energy being the leaders that are keeping everything above water, if you will. So it does look like the market's waiting for something. I don't know what it's waiting for at this point, in that we've already had the Fed, we've already had non-farm, and so maybe it's just kind of trying to figure out where it's going to go at this stage. So in looking at this, I think that just what you need to do, as always, is continue to have your risk management in place in whatever way it may be, whether you are fine weathering a storm for a more buy and hold investment, or whether you have your risk management in place for something more short term. Just make sure that you have a plan. But ultimately, the only thing that's really lighting anything up, by way of lighting it up, are Bitcoin and the Bitcoin stocks. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now.
Don't forget your other favorite, Shiba Inu, sir. You love that one, I know. A big holding of the uncleist of Mike's. I think Zeus was an early proponent of Shiba Inu. Unfortunately, he is now past tense, like many of the great 80s wrestlers. Not exactly a life that leads to longevity. Let's just put it that way. A rough gig. But yes, interesting stuff nonetheless. Let's see what's interesting out there in the markets. And it kind of depends where you're looking, how much paper you're seeing on ye old tape today. VIX at about 214,000. That's not bad considering the ADV is only about 415. So it's within spitting distance of that. It could hit that today. A SPY at about just a tick north of 3 million, about 3.05 million. The ADV, 4.7 million out there. The S, decent paper, nothing blowing the doors off, about 800,000, pretty decent for this time of day. The ADV, nearly 1.5 million out there in the S. The Qs, almost 800,000 as well, 796. The ADV, almost exactly the same, 1.48 million out there. The S and the Qs looking very similar these days from a volume perspective, even if one's a little bit of a beefier beast than the other. IWM, again, this has been a fascinating time to be in the small caps. We were talking about this last week. We had Mr. Rhodes on TWIFO a couple of weeks ago, I do believe, coming on saying he thought this was a great time to get into small caps for this Santa Claus rally he thinks was coming. And man, did it come last week. Small caps off to the races. A lot of folks pointing the finger at some of the meme names like AMC now being pretty big holdings in small caps and contributing, shall we say, to this outperformance. Whatever's afoot out there, it is driving some paper again today to the tune of 545,000 contracts in IWM. The ADV is also ticked up to over 700,000. It's 704,000 right now. Seems like probably going to hit it again today. So a lot of action out there in small caps. Have you folks been slinging the small caps out there? Boy, I got a feeling you have, given how much action has been out there. Speaking of action, let's see what kind of action we're seeing in the single names out there. This has been a crazy aspect of the market all earnings season, pretty much. We're seeing weird names lighting it up. Crazy names dominating the top, costing you a ton of paper to break into the list. And that's pretty much the case again today. Cost you 318,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That is nothing to sneeze at, listeners. Usually we can see 150, 180 easily. 250 is usually a pretty decent day, a pretty active day. We're well north of that now, almost 320 to break into the top 10. That gets you to your old friend, Peloton. Yeah, Peloton's, as you've been listening to the headlines, kind of having a rough go out there of late. Let's see. Today, they're off another nearly $5 or 8.5%. It's right around the 50, 51 handle out there. But good for 318,000 contracts. And go figure. When they were the only gym in the country, they were doing pretty well. It's like the pandemic came along and just transformed this. It gave this name just a whole new life. And then, of course, it was trading at pretty lofty levels. What's a 52-week high? 171 out there for Peloton. So it's pretty much a third of that, less than that now out there, which is just insane given these levels we saw. Of course, that high came in the height of the memeness back in January of this year. It's pretty much been selling off almost ever since. So interesting time out there. It's like they had a brief resurgence. Peloton sold off to about 82 in May. Then it rallied again. It got back up to 100, over 100 actually, 126 in July 20th to be precise. And then ever since then, it's been selling off again. And of course, the aggressive leg coming just in the last week or so out there. So Peloton, good for 318,000. That's just the beginning of our top 10 out there today, listeners. Number 9 is good old Tilray. I haven't talked about them in a while out there. They're having a decent day, up $1.50 or about 14.25%. Of course, out there in the Canadian cannabis sector, good for 379,000 contracts out there in good old Tilray today. Number 8, yep, it's AMC. 388,000 contracts. Don't need me to tell you what the heck's going on out there in AMC. Number 7's Palantir. You know, they've been kind of a perennial top 10er for a while now. Recently, they kind of been kicked out a little bit due to some other earnings action, but they're back in there today and looking pretty juicy at 401,000 contracts. They're up 3.3% to about 2686 out there right now. So interesting times here for Palantir. Looks like they're flirting with, not quite at, but they're flirting with looks like their 6-month high. Not quite the 52-week high. 52-week high was $45. They're still a long way from that at about 26.85 out there. Up now 45% over the last 6 months, though. So a good run for them. NVIDIA, number 6. You know, Chip Madness. NVIDIA is going to be rocking and socking to the tune of 443,000 contracts. Number 5. Yes, I can't remember the last time it's been this low. Number 5 is Apple. My goodness. Nobody's playing with Apple today. 617,000 contracts. That's a lot, but in the comparative scheme of Apple, not so much. Number 5 is Apple. Oh, wow, that's crazy. That shows you what kind of a mad day we're having today, listeners. Number 4, yeah, it's back. It's good old Lucid Motors. Ever since it topped our list about a week ago, listeners, not even, this thing has just been on fire. Up another 8.25% or $3.50 today. So a lot of this reflected glow over Tesla spilling out into other EV names. And Lucid, certainly one of them. A week ago was trading $33.50. Now is trading $45.25. Up nearly $11 or about a third just in the last 5 days. So good run for them. And 727,000 contracts today, listeners. Number 3. Our old meme name. It is definitely a meme name now. It's over $20. Up nearly $1 or 5% just today. It's Ford. My goodness. We have to talk to Mr. Overby, see what his new threshold is for trading cheap options, because he jokingly, or maybe only half jokingly before, said it was Ford. Now he's going to trade options up to $20 or under $20 still. You won't touch. So, interesting. You may have to revisit that. But Ford, number 3, 859,000. Number 2, it's Tesla, 1.04 million contracts. And number 1, we've got good old AMD back on top, 1.5 million contracts today. It's got looks like it's got a deal with Facebook. I refuse to say Meta. It's got a deal going with Facebook to gobble up a whole bunch of chips, and that's driving AMD. AMD was up over 12% at one point, and good for number 1 on our list out here today. Let's look really quickly out there to the land of earnings. Another hot and heavy week, listeners. Cody today, PayPal today, AMC today. Do earnings really matter in AMC? Who knows? But they're announcing today anyway. And Roblox today as well. Tuesday, we got Palantir, Neo, Coinbase, Wynn Resorts, DoorDash, and Krispy Kreme. Wednesday, we have good old Disney, Beyond Meat, Wendy's, and Bumble. Thursday, we have Yeti and Sundial. And Friday, we've got AstraZeneca. Let's see if we have any hot new earnings move results reports. No new. We have some new results reports. I don't see any of those tickers I listed there on it. You can go check it out for yourselves. TheOptionsInsider.com. Season looking good right now, listeners. We're still holding firm at 104%. Yes, it's a green season. Has not been since the start of the pandemic that we've seen one of those, listeners. And last week was 126%. So, wow, we've adjusted some of the other weeks. Week 1 was in the green. Now it's down to 99%. So slight underperformance. Week 2, 55%. Week 3, 95%. Week 4, 126%. That's impressive. I have not seen that in quite some time. Let's go through really quickly and see some of the names. Some of the names I just mentioned. Let's see what they're lining up for here. PayPal is popping off. Today, after the bell, 225 3/4 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 14.62. In the past, they've moved 11 1/3. So a lot of juice out there in PayPal. Roblox on the gaming side, $78 is where they were trading. 8 1/3 is what they were pricing in. They moved 8 3/4. So close, a little bit light, but nothing crazy out there. Let's go out to Coinbase. So tomorrow after the bell, 337 is where they were trading. My goodness, they're pricing in $32.50. In the past, they've moved $9.73. Now, obviously, we don't have a ton of data on Coinbase. So that's probably why that number looks so out of place. But still, that's a ton of extra juice that they're pricing in right now. DoorDash, $198.68. They're pricing in $18. In the past, they've moved $18. We've got Krispy Kreme on the 9th after the bell, $14.10. How much donut ball is there? $1.35. In the past, they've moved about $1. Interesting. Neo, they have some juice. They're also tomorrow after the bell, 42 1/3. They're pricing in 3 1/3. In the past, they've moved 508. Wow, they've annihilated the vol out there. Wow, that's interesting out there for a name like Neo. Let's go out to, let's do a few more here. Let's go to Bumble for all the ladies out there. The 10th after the bell, $52 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $487. In the past, they moved $552. Beyond Meat, they're on the 10th after the bell. They're trading right around $100 as of this report. They're pricing in $8.50. In the past, they moved $14.86. Wow. They're coming for it there. Let's go to Disney there. That's a big one to end on. Disney, the 10th after the bell, $175.63 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $7.83. Get this, listeners. In the past, they've moved $4.50. That's a lot of extra juice. That's not a small name to price in a lot of extra juice. That merits some further scrutiny. I need to keep an eye on Disney, though. Meanwhile, it's time for us to keep an eye on what the heck is popping off in the markets. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Odd Block. You know, sometimes we get these thematic approaches to the Odd Block where Eye of Sauron just feels like it has a theme for the day. And today, that certainly is the case. Our theme for today is line in the sand puts. Will they cross the line? Is the line crazy? This far and no farther? We shall find out. Let's kick it off out here in YELP. This is a name that hasn't come across our radar in a while. Of course, YELP, the online review service out there. Ticker symbol, appropriately enough, YELP. YELP. Trading right now, $39.82. Good day today, up about $1.62 or 4.25%. So a nice pop for YELP. Let's look back really quickly on the year that's been out there in YELP land. A year ago, nobody was going out to eat. Nobody was yelping, it seemed like, because a year ago it was trading $28.50. They rallied briefly in November up to 34.25 and then sold off right back down to looks like their 52-week low of 23.20. So they kind of had a nice, interesting fit and start there from November into December of last year. Rallied hard, then sold off again just as hard. Then, of course, the meme madness happened and also some talk of reopening hitting back there in January. So this thing started rallying again and went from $23 pretty much from its 52-week low, it went to its 52-week high in the span of, let's say, about a few months. This is March now. So it took a few months to get up there, but it topped out at 43.86 on March 17th. So I had a nice run there from mid-December, right around Christmas, all the way till mid-March. Then it sold off to $37, and it kind of did this dance bouncing from the 30s into the low 40s a few times. Kind of has been doing that pretty much ever since the rest of the year. Let's see, it got down recently down to about 35 and change on September 10th. That was kind of the near-term low, and it kind of has been rallying ever since. Rallied again to $40 and change on September 24th, sold off again, back and forth to where we find ourselves again right now, right around $40, $39.82. So we've pretty much been hanging out in this around $40 range ever since March out there. It looks like, let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. I already gave you a clue. It's line in the sand put. Let's see which one it found, listeners. In YELP, we got the D33s. So almost $7 out of the money puts going up here today. Someone hitting that bid. They were 20-cent bid. And someone said, you know what? I will take all of that to the tune of $9,845. If you're wondering, listeners, this is about a 42 vols. That's decently rich for an online review aggregator, effectively. The stock was right about here when it went up, about $39.70, so it hasn't moved too much. Looks like we're right in the post-earnings move here, right in the earnings season move here for YELP because their next announcement is February. So they obviously just popped off not too long ago. It's like someone deciding, you know what? If they drop back down to 33, I mean, it could hit there. It has been there very recently. Just in September, it wasn't at 33, but it was at about 35 and change. So 33, it's pretty far out of the money now, but it's conceivable. And they got not nothing for it. They didn't get a ton. They got 20 cents. And they got a 42 vol. Mr. Rock Lobster, I should say, I apologize, Mr. Meatball, now our new reigning and defending wrestling champ. What do you think of these line in the sand puts, sir? Do you think this is a good line, or do you think perhaps this is just crazy town?
No, I don't think it's a bad line at all. I think it's, the yield's there. I understand it. Makes some sense. What do you think?
It's not terrible. Not the craziest we've seen. Not the worst. I don't hate it. What about 20 cents? I know you like a little bit more on your premium.
Yeah, of course. That's a little bit light, but, these are far enough out of the money that, that's what you're going to get. Right. And that's the nature of this stuff. They probably they're picking up their nickels, and if this thing really does drop, they're going to be owning a lot of stock.
I think our friend Nichols in the chat might like picking up some nickels out there. We'll come back to this one. What do you guys think of this? 20 cents. It's, about $6-7 out of the money. What do you guys think? Are you excited about this? You think this is madness? Hit us up. Let us know as we keep on rolling. We got a theme here today, listeners. Next up, we're going out to AES Corp. This is a power company out of Virginia, and ticker symbol appropriately enough, AES. So we're 2 for 2 in the appropriate symbol category at very least. That's important to me. Let's see, trading right now about $24 and change, 24.12. Let's see, actually off about 3.5%, nearly $1 today. So it's selling off pretty hard today. Let's see, a year ago it was trading about right around their 52-week low of about 20.25. And then they rallied pretty hard right into all the meme madness. They got up to 28.02 on January 20th. And they promptly gave a lot of it back. They got down to about 22 and change less than a week later, and then turned right around and rallied again up to their 52-week high on February 16th of about 29.07. And they've kind of been vacillating around that range ever since. They sold off again in March, back down to 25, back up to 28 a week later. Back down to 25 again. It's a very volatile power company. And then back up in April to 28.25. And that was kind of it for the year. Then they sold off to 24 and change. And they've kind of been bouncing around this mid to low 20s range pretty much ever since. They had a little bit of resurgence recently. They were trading 22.90 or so back in late September. And they've rallied since then up to about 25.5. That was just about a week ago. And they've kind of been selling off ever since then. So a very volatile power company out here. They provide power in 15 countries around the world. Interesting here. So let's see what our eye of Sauron found. Once again, another line in the sand. This time also in December. This time a little bit closer to the fire. We're going to the 23 strike. Paper coming in and selling the D23 puts 4,900 times for 30 cents. They actually got a little bit of juice on these because they were 25-cent bid. They got a nickel better, so they got them for 30 cents there. That's about a 28, almost a 29 vol out there. The stock was actually a little bit higher when they sold these, 24.63. So interesting that they got that bid when they did. There are earnings coming up in February as well. So clearly another name that's in their post-earnings cycle here. Mr. Meatball, 2 for 2 here on the line in the sand. What do you think of these? And do you like them better or worse than our previous line in the sand puts?
I like these a little better. You're getting more yield. It's a better price on the stock. So yeah, I like these a lot better. So, these make sense to me. Let's put it that way.
These make sense to the Meatball. We'll have to come back and keep an eye on these, see if this line in the sand is crossed. Let's go now to our third line in the sand, listeners. This is a newcomer to the odd block, I do believe. This is QDEL Corporation. Ticker symbol QDEL, QDEL. Trading right now 123 and change, up about 2 1/3, nearly 2% today. This is the name that's had an interesting saga over the past year. By the way, this is a manufacturer of diagnostic healthcare products. So looks like they had the first emergency use COVID-19 antigen test. So that obviously drove a lot of action for them earlier, about a year ago. Because a year ago, they were trading 203.66. And they rallied in January up to their high, actually February 1st of 288.70, obviously off the blush of this COVID test, apparently. And then they pretty much gave that up really quick. By February 23rd, they were trading 167, so off over 100 handles. And by May 3rd, right around that range, they were trading their 52-week low of 103. So they went from, in the span of just a couple of months, from 288, almost 289, down to 103. So quite the turbulent year here for QDEL Corporation. Been kind of bouncing in that low 100s range ever since. They briefly rallied back in July, back up to 150. Seemed like that was short-lived because they gave it up again in August, back down August 19th, down to 114 again. Then they tried again. They got up to 157 on September 21st, and then they've kind of been selling off ever since, and including very recently going on the 4th from 136 down to where they are right now to 123. So it's been an interesting, turbulent, and rough year net. On the year, they're off about 39%, so they're well below where they were trading a year ago, and certainly off their highs. They're off far more than that. So an interesting year, but it seems like perhaps someone is deciding, you know what, this far, no farther in QDEL Corp as well, because they are once again driving into the fire, drawing a line in the sand out there as well. Where is their line being drawn? Let's see. They put up 4,534 of the D's 95 puts. So this person isn't really playing too fast and loose with this one. They're pretty far out of the money, and yet they're still getting a fair amount of juice, which, again, this is a very volatile name. They sold these for 51 cents, actually through the bid. The bid was 55 cents. They had to go through it to get almost 5,000 done. If you're wondering, it's about a 55 vol, listeners. The stock was actually higher when these went up. The stock was 124.66, so about a 1.25 higher where these went up. So interesting. So Mr. Rockwell, I should say, keep saying that. Mr. Meatball. Let's see. Yeah, 95 puts, 51 cents through the bid to get them done nearly 5,000 times. Getting a lot more juice than our other friends out here. Obviously, a lot more vol to warrant it. What do you think of these as compared to which of these three, I should say, is your favorite?
Yeah, 51 cents on a $95 stock through the bid. Feel like they could have done better on the execution side here. I'm not a giant proponent of these ones. A lot more vol. More expensive stock. So, it makes me a little nervous. I probably like the second one the best. The 30 cents on the 23 puts, better than 1%. That's probably the best one of the group.
Meatball's favorite is AES. Do you agree? Disagree? Let us know as we keep on rolling. It's time to see what Uncle Mike thinks. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, everybody. It is Monday. Time for some options, wit, wisdom, and or strategery. Let's see what Uncle Mike has in store for us. Mr. Uncle Mike, sometimes you've got something on in your portfolio. It's something maybe you've had around for a while. Maybe you put it on right before all this madness hit, and you've had a nice run on it. So let's say now you're sitting on some longer-term profits in your portfolio, sir. What do you think you should do if you want to hedge something like that? Not just something you like a weekly, but something you've had for months and or years in your portfolio, sir.
Funny you should ask, Mark. So what I want to talk about today is pretty much what you talked about. Let's say that you own something and you like the stock and you like it as a longer term holding and you want to keep it. But let's say that you're just kind of concerned over the near term. And I actually got a question from a client recently on Disney. And that's just a stock that if you follow Disney fairly closely, and this client owns the stock with an account she has with me. And if you follow Disney, just over the course of the last few years, it's kind of gone up quite a bit, actually, if you look at it from a longer term standpoint. And so with Disney, a lot of the things that happened there is that there was, of course, a concern going into COVID that people can't go to the parks, but then Disney came out with Disney Plus, and they entered into the streaming world in a very strong and powerful way. And of course, Disney's performed very well over the longer term, over the last couple of years. And so with that, the client doesn't necessarily want to sell it just because of the fact that the client feels that, and I do myself as well, that Disney's going to be a very good stock over the longer term. Also, with that being said, does that mean that you can maybe put a stop loss on it and just in case it goes down? Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because even if it did go down, both the client and myself would still like this as a longer term holding. It's they've kind of been around for a while. They've been doing really good lately. And so with that, what we decided to do is that the client is a little bit concerned. She's actually more concerned than I am in the short term with this. But in the short term, let's say that Disney does have a pullback. Now, I can't give specific strike prices and expirations for what we're doing this with, but you have some choices as to what you can do if you're concerned with a longer term holding in the near term. The first thing that comes to mind, which I don't recommend, but a lot of people like to think about, is selling a covered call against a longer term holding. I can't begin to tell you how much I dislike this strategy if you're in a position to where you want to continue to own the stock. And the reason is that, yes, let's say the stock does go down a little bit, then that's free money. The options will expire worthless. No question about that. And it's a way with which to generate some income. But here's the problem with that. Should the stock increase in the near term, which any stock can, of course, then you run the risk of assignment risk. And if you can't sell it because of the fact that you have longer term capital gains that you don't want to have a problem with, I don't see Elon Musk doing any surveys on should he sell his Disney stock or anything like that. But let's say that that's an issue for you. You can't risk it if you're concerned with the stock actually being called away from you, because that's a very real risk when you sell a covered call. Now, the other thing that I talk about a lot of times on the show is selling a call spread. So let's say you wanted to go out maybe 10% out of the money and sell a covered call. And then on top of that, maybe 12 to 15% out of the money, sell or buy a long-term call. So that way you'll still continue to have income, not as much as just a regular call, but in case the stock does go significantly higher, then you won't miss out on a significant upside rally. I don't like that strategy either if you're looking to continue to hold the stock. And the reason is that number one, what if the stock expires between the strike prices? But even more so than that, it's not going to act as much as a hedge, which leads me to my next point. When you sell a covered call and you believe that you're getting a hedge, a covered call is a Band-Aid for a stock. So in other words, let's say a stock's at 50 and you sell the 55 call for $1. The stock goes down $1 from 50 to 49. Well, there you go. Your covered call covered the loss. That's a paper cut to the stock. And Band-Aids work very effectively on paper cuts. However, if you're hedging something, then you need to have a little bit more protection than just a Band-Aid, which leads me to where I like to go and where we went with Disney in this real world example, and that is buying a put spread, a vertical put spread. Now, of course, the disadvantage to buying a vertical put spread is the fact that you have limited downside protection. So instead of just buying a long put, that means if the stock goes to zero, then you're totally hedged from the spot that you bought the long put at, from that strike price. However, when doing that, the problem is that can get kind of costly. And so the reason that we went with a put spread where we bought a put option out of the money and sold another put option further out of the money is the fact that if Disney were to go down 60% over the course of the next couple of months, I'd still feel very comfortable holding that for the client. And I'd still think it's a good stock. And so because of that, I believe that Disney is not going to go bankrupt anytime soon. And if they were to drop fairly significantly, where the put spread can act as a hedge would be beneficial in the near term to where you're protecting some of your downside. And from there, you actually will have cash to where you can buy more shares if you want. You can use it for other purposes. But the point is that you have somewhat of a hedge on in case it goes lower. Now, the other benefit of it is that volatility will become less of a factor when doing such a thing, just because of the fact that you have a long option and a short option. If you do have it to where this hedge becomes worthless, it's a wonderful thing. Now, of course, the disadvantage is that you had to pay for that put spread, but the advantage is that you have something in place in case it goes down. And if you are in a stock to where you're not married to it, like in this case, the client and I are pretty well married to this stock at this point. I guess you're never totally married to anything, but this is definitely something we deem as a long-term holding. Then if you're not in that position, then what I just said does not make sense because of the fact that you're looking to get out, you're looking for different things. What today's purpose is, or today's point, is if you are looking to hedge a longer-term holding that you're willing to weather out the storm with, but you want to have something in place. And that is the strategy block for today.
All right, there we go. That is the block of strategery. Also, the block of many doors, opening and closing over there as we keep on rolling. You know, we got a little time, so let's go really quickly into the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the mail block. You guys ask us questions. We often turn the spotlight back on you. Last week, we asked you, in honor of Halloween, what do you think is the most terrifying option strategy out there? And as I thought, time spreads took it. They didn't get the majority, though. They didn't get over half, but they got pretty darn close. 46.8% of you saying time spreads. Number 2, iron condors. I wonder how much of that is just the name. The name itself sounds intimidating to people. 31.9%. Straddles number 3, 14.9%. And conversions, reversals, 6.4%. I think if more of you knew what those were, they probably would be a little bit more intimidating to you. But alas, not many votes for that, which is what we expected. This week, a little bit different. You guys are already diving into this one. Fast and furious. Get out there at options if you haven't done so already. It's that week. Day that ends in Y. People are all fired up about Tesla. Musk putting out his poll. Should he sell 10% of his holdings? Apparently, 58% of you saying yes. So we thought we'd go back to one of our old standbys, one of our own favorites. I know many of your favorite questions of the week that we do. Quite simply, Tesla's on fire again, so time to bring it back. What is the largest options position open out there right now in Tesla? Once again, we ask you, no cheating. Don't go pulling it up on your brokerage platform. Just what does your gut tell you? I will say to you, I will give you this hint. All 4 of these positions that we give you are real sizable open positions right now in Tesla. We didn't make any of these up. They're all real. Just a question, which one is the most real? And I will say, if you've been listening for a while, you may know where this one is headed. I'm just going to put that one out there for you. We gave you 4 choices. The March 2023 2,000 calls, the Jan 2024 1,400 puts, the November expiring this week on the 12th 1,000 puts, or the June 2022 $1, yes, 1.0 puts. Mr. Meatball, we'll start with you, sir. What is your vote? And more importantly, what do you think our audience is voting for, sir?
I'm going to say the June 2022 $1 put.
Okay, interesting. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What is your choice, and what do you think our audience is voting for?
Same answer as Meatball on both accounts. I think it is the $1. And the question that I have, Mark, is that what if number 2 takes over number 1 between this week and the end of the week? How does that affect the poll?
In the history of doing this, that has never happened. We will keep an eye on it. If it evolves by Friday, obviously one of these is going the way of the dodo by Friday. But if it evolves past then, we shall let you know. But I do right now, it's pretty much, it's as we did this poll, it's kind of when it matters. So that's the standing we're talking about right now. So yes, there is a clear winner right now. And I can neither confirm nor deny anyone's answer right now because that would give away the answer to the poll. I can't give my own answer, obviously, because I know the answer. So I will not say which of these 4 is the winner chicken dinner just yet. You got to tune in later in the week, maybe OB episode 2, perhaps Vol Views, and we'll break it down for you later this week. Meanwhile, get out there at options. A lot of you are already getting out there fast and furious. Tesla always brings it out, and people don't know what it is. Which of these do you think is the big dog out there in Tesla right now? Let us know. As we keep on rolling, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show. We do just that. We go around and see what everyone's keeping an eye on until we can gather here together on Thursday for episode 2 of the old OB. Let's go out to the land of the meatball first. Mr. Meatball, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until our next episode on Thursday?
Well, we've got a lot of earnings still coming up. I want to see what happens with volatility in the VIX and this market. It seems to be getting a little tired, and vol is like we said, definitely getting a little bit of a bid. So I'm really interested in whether vol's going to hold up or whether the market is going to take a nice pause here over the next few days.
And any hot, exciting names coming across your GAMDAR right now, sir?
CCJ. All the uranium stocks are going crazy. The volume in those names is exploding. So CCJ, DINDIN, any of the, not DINDIN, DNN. We're also seeing metals and mining blow up. FCX, X, CLF, really interesting where money is flowing today. They did pass that infrastructure bill, but not seem to have the effect that a lot of people maybe would have thought, maybe because it was so fly by night and, the market was kind of hopeful it was going to pass already.
Good old DNN back over the $2 handle right now. 208 up 7.5% today. I guess those 2 puts I sold going to expire out of the money. I didn't mind getting the stock, and they're going to make me sell them again, aren't they? Oh, well, got to sell some rich puts yet again. That's first world problems for me out there. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on until we gather here together on Thursday?
As much as I like talking about Shiba Inu, the name's really growing on me, by the way. I'm watching 4,700 on the SPX. We do have earnings, but we don't have any the major typical market moving earnings coming up. So I think 4,700 is a key number. And to add to what Mark said, if we have vol going up and the market going up, always want to keep an eye on that when things like that happen.
All right, everybody. That music means we're done here, but we're not done today, not by a long shot. In fact, we got a great surprise coming up for you in about exactly an hour. On the Crypto Rundown, you folks have been asking us so many questions about all things BITO, a.k.a. BITO, a.k.a. the ProShares Bitcoin ETF. We said, why not go to the source? So the folks from ProShares are joining us on the Crypto Rundown in about exactly an hour to answer all your questions about all things BITO or BITO. Maybe we're so nice. This one's so popular, and a lot of the crypto folks are so new. Maybe we'll open this one up live to everybody so everybody can get in there, ask their questions, and just this one I think is going to interest a lot of people. So get in there if you're listening live. Come back in about exactly an hour for that one. It's going to be a fun one. If you're listening after the fact, just hit next. You'll want to listen to that one. And before we go, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Meatball, if folks want to hit you up about all things GAMDAR, where should they go? What should they do?
Come to optionpit.com and you will be not sad because of all the amazing content that we're putting out every day on volatility, on VIX, on you name it. If you want to learn how to be a better option trader, listen to this podcast and read the stuff that we're putting out every day.
You heard the man. You will not be sad if you go to the land of the pit, a.k.a. optionpit.com. And Mr. Uncle Mike, if folks want to hit you up to talk about hedging long-term holdings or debate Shiba Inu with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, or feel free to check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation.
There you go. stcharleswealth.com. Give them a follow on the old Twitters as well at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. Burning up the charts over there. We'll be burning some stuff up here in the studio to get ready for those ProShares folks, so we'll be readjusting the live. We'll be back in exactly an hour with that one with some great guests to talk about all things BITO. It's a crazy time out there, so that should be a fun one. Back again tomorrow. Got a double dose. All the hot products are coming on. We got the SIBO folks coming on tomorrow. You guys wanted to know about nanos, so we dragged them kicking and screaming onto the network to answer your questions there. They're going to be on the show with us live tomorrow, as well as, of course, a great pro Q&A coming up there tomorrow as well. A Wednesday, got the old option block and Options Playbook Radio. Then we're back again on Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.